Hello. Let me do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Rachel Thomas Life live stream. I am so excited to be going live with you guys. I have never done a live stream before. I don't think, not even on like any of my other social medias. So this is a brand new territory, but I thought it would be a fun way to engage with the people that have been supporting us so heavily throughout these past couple of months since we've been more active on YouTube. So welcome everyone. I want this to be a casual, interactive experience. I want you to see your comments. So yeah, leave them below. I will be looking at my comments over here. I have my notes over here. So if you see me glancing to the side, you know what that is. But anyway, today we are going to be talking about the most common assumptions that I see and that I've collected about digital nomads. So these are the things that you guys think about digital nomading and long-term travel and really all of the above. So I went onto my Instagram as well as YouTube post, and I put 2 posts out there and collected the assumptions that you guys really just wanted to see me react to. And that's what you're going to get to today. And I'm also going to react to any new ones that you may have and put in the comments as well. So yes, come in, hang out. It'll be very casual, very chit-chatty, and yeah, just a time for us to spend some time together. Before we get started with the assumptions, I did want to go over a bit of an update on how digital nomad long-term travel prep planning is going. So we have a couple of weeks until we leave. Like we're not leaving, right now, but it feels like, in regular life, a handful of weeks is plenty of time to get stuff done. But in digital nomad life, it feels like literally tomorrow that all of these things have to be done, and then we're going to leave behind everything we know and go on this new adventure. So although we still have some time, it is, getting down to crunch time in my opinion. And we are getting through some of the bigger things, getting our house in order, figuring out what we're packing, what we need to get rid of, making sure that everything is squared away and that we have house sitters for the times that we need house sitters and that there's always going to be someone here taking care of things. And we're also discovering the small things that we really didn't think about beforehand that also needs to be done. We have house sitters and people scheduled to be at the house, but do we have any type of information to give them? Do we have any breakdown of how the house is supposed to run, or how maybe you should go and check the mail every once in a while? So little things like that we probably didn't think of in the grand scheme of things, we're discovering along the way and really trying to make sure we at least get those written down or something like that. But that was a recap for those of y'all that have been here. For those of y'all that are new, my name is Rachel, and soon my husband and I are going to be embarking on our digital nomading long-term travel journey. So what that means for us is that we will be essentially traveling around, probably moving every couple of days to every week on the short end, and probably staying some places up to a month, but I don't expect us to stay places much longer than a month, but that's kind of our range. And so we're essentially going to be traveling the world while working remotely. And so I will still be doing my remote work based off of American time zones, and then he will be our full-time travel planner. And so I know he's gotten a lot done with destinations and bookings, and I'm really excited to make videos about that and about all the places we go. It's also nice to not have to be the person to do that, because my goodness, does it look intimidating. I see the places that he's booked and where we're going, and I'm like, how do you get all of this straight in your head? But blessed to have someone like him that is taking care of that so that I can focus on work and YouTube work. So 2 different kinds of work, although one of them may arguably be more fun than the other. So let's get started with the first assumption. Let's see. The first assumption is you must be rich or have a trust fund to do digital nomad type traveling. Oh, hello, Katie Lady. I see that you have joined. Thank you. And thanks for the super sticker. How kind of you. We love all of our fans. Thank you so much for the support. So our first assumption is you must be rich or have a trust fund to travel. And although this is the wording I used for this assumption, overall, the feedback that I've seen on the different posts is simply that people think that you need a lot more money than you probably do to travel like this or to have any type of living outside of your home experience. And from, mind you, these are my reactions to these assumptions as someone that has been planning and researching on how to do it, but I'm still in the prep phases, so we haven't fully done it yet. But this is from what I've seen and what I've gathered and what I've learned from other people and then what we've done in our planning. And so I can at least start with talking about areas like Southeast Asia. There are a lot of accommodations that are, I'm going to say probably more than likely, almost positively, unless you live for free, cheaper than what you're paying now for an apartment rent, a home mortgage. So on the base level, you can probably afford to, if you don't have to pay for housing here, to find something similar or even something a little bit smaller but in the same price range in another country. In Southeast Asia, there are tons of options under $1,000. In Western Europe, there are also some cheaper options. When you get into places like Eastern Europe and the Schengen zone, that's really where the prices can go a bit higher because you're getting into the areas that are more touristy in Eastern Europe are fairly similar to the prices in the big cities in America. So you go to a place like London, Paris, Rome, Milan, then you're going to be paying New York, Chicago, Houston, LA prices. So if you don't already live in those cities, that might be a culture shock. But overall, the accommodations that you can find worldwide, even South America is also cheaper. The accommodations you can find worldwide are just comparable or at least doable. The other thing you have to consider are all of the things you wouldn't have to pay for if you were not living here. So if you plan on being gone for a long time and you have a car note, you can sell your car. You don't have to pay for car insurance. If you have memberships to things that you pay for, those would be a factor too. If you pay for a gym membership, you could cancel that or you could use that to pay for some type of gym equivalent while you travel. I know a lot of countries use ClassPass. Let's see, there's also tolls depending on where you live. But where I live, every street's a toll road. So a toll bill would be a lot less when I'm not driving a car. Gas, and then also consider all of the bills for all your house. So whenever you add in all of the things that you are removing, it can help offset some of the things that would be more expensive, like maybe going to more restaurants than you're used to if you're staying in hotels. So that is the first assumption. The second assumption is it's only worth it if you go to the cheap countries. And so yeah, these first two are more on the financial side. And I feel like people have this assumption because all they know of some of these countries is what they see on TV, and all they see on TV are ads put out by humanitarian relief funds. So if everything that you see about countries that have a lower cost of living, if everything that you see is put out by a humanitarian fund, then maybe there's a side of the story you're missing. And so you don't need to only go to places like Italy and Ireland and England for this to be worth it. Thailand, Mexico, Peru are all phenomenal places that have such highly rated, even touristy destinations, not even based off of living, but they just have such a high rating for people that want to just visit for a week, that if you got to spend even more time in those cities, it would still absolutely be worth it. There's also a lot of expats in many of these communities that can sort of bring you into their little circle and show you what the culture is like without you having to feel so overwhelmed. And oh, you know what? Now that I'm looking at it, I think I read it backwards. So I was saying that it's only worth it if you go to the expensive countries, which is also not true. But then people are saying it's only worth it if you go to the cheap countries. And here's my reaction to that. As you can see, I did not pre-write down my reaction. These are authentic reactions. Authentic reactions. Anyway, saying it's only worth it if you go to the cheap countries is, I feel like, also based off of the all these other countries are so expensive and you are not going to be able to afford it. And that's where if you're moving around and spending a month here, a month there, or a week here and a week there, you can really build the budget that you need and then balance it with the different locations. So if you have X amount of dollars and you know, oh, this country is way under budget and this country's a little bit over, then maybe don't spend 6 weeks over here, spend 4 weeks over here and 1 week over here. That way you get to experience both. And you can use the information like that to kind of plan out your entire stay, which is something Christian is doing that I get to sit back and watch. But anyway, let's go to the next assumption. You'll get bored living out of a suitcase. I sure hope not. Okay, I have thoughts about this. And I've seen people on all sides of the spectrum about, I bring X, Y, and Z suitcase with me, or I live out of my purse and I have one pair of clothes and I wear that clothes every single day. And I don't think that's for me. But I also don't want to feel so restricted that I can't pick up all of my luggage. If I can't carry all of my luggage like off the ground in my arms at one time, I feel like I have too much. I need to be able, if the train doors are closing, I'm getting on the train. You know what I mean? A little shimmy, a little boogie. I want to be on the train. So I think that by keeping in mind the goal of flexibility and the wanting to see as much as possible, you can make living out of a suitcase work. Also, I think what a lot of people are forgetting when it comes to this assumption is that stores are real. Stores are still real. And because you're not at home, you are probably not tippity typing and buying off Amazon as much as you normally would, right? You're not living in one spot. So the Amazon driver doesn't know where you are. So you're already saving money there. Let's say I have a carry-on suitcase, 4 pairs of pants, 5 shirts, 2 dresses, 2 workout clothes, right? Because I'm wearing it more often, they're going to get worn more. The second that shirt's ready to be replaced, I get to go to a store and buy a new one. And depending on how much I spend on my clothes, which for me is a reasonable amount. I love Uniqlo, right? That's if I see one, that's where I'm going. So if I'm replacing a $25 shirt with a $25 shirt every couple of months, I think that would be frequent enough of a refresh to, at least in the clothes department, not get bored living out of a suitcase that way. As far as everything else, like cosmetics are usable. You will use them up and then have to replace them. Same with skincare, shampoo, conditioner. So I feel like the clothes are really the main thing that you could potentially get bored with. And for me, I'm going with the mentality that yes, what I'm bringing is what I will have to start out with, but I'm not bringing anything that I'm not willing or able to replace or get rid of. Should it get a stain that I can't get out, or a tear, or it's just old and worn, or I don't know, it smells bad, I'm okay with getting rid of it and replacing it with a new one. And I think that will help keep things fresh. All right, on to the next one. Nomads just sit in cafes and pretend to work. There's multiple times on our initial travels, way before this plan was even a thought in our minds, that I would see people working at like the same cafe. I'm enjoying a beautiful canal view in Amsterdam, and I'm like, there's no way that they're actually working. I'm like, you could tell they're not a local, right? I'm like, there's no way they're sitting here on their computer doing work. It just didn't make sense to me, because in my mind, everyone that wasn't a local that was there was traveling, right? They were on vacation. They had a couple of days and they were using them to work. And to me, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And now the more I've looked into it, when you're spending 2 and 3 weeks in a location, especially when you know that you do have to work to make money, sacrificing maybe half a day for a week or full days here and there and kind of piling in when you need to get your work done into those moments isn't as much of a sacrifice as you would think it is. Because maybe in a 5-day trip, you pack all 5 of those days full. But in a 30-day trip, you can still just use 5 of those days as heavy adventure days, or for every activity you do in one day, spread that out over to 3 days. That's just 15 little half days, which means you still have your 9 to 5, or if you're an American in Europe, you have your like 3 to midnight. And in the morning, the 8 a.m. or wake up early, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., you can do your exploring and your touristy stuff, or you can rest, or you can do laundry. But whenever you have that much time, taking your work to a cafe and sitting and actually working doesn't seem that much of a sacrifice. Another thing I also learned, which is a little bit of a tangent from the pretending to work, is a lot of people that are doing the digital nomad long-term travel thing that are working are doing, they have like their own business or they sell their own service or their own product. I see a lot of comments of people being like, what job did you get that allows you to do this? And then they have the forums that have all of the online jobs, and I've looked at them. Okay, I've looked at a handful of them, and some of them are so incredibly boring. I don't believe people are doing them full time. I couldn't imagine the ones where you like train an AI. So whenever you see a lot of people like, yeah, I'm going to this cafe to work, I would do that, but I would also be working on YouTube videos, right? It was a thing that I could do that wasn't client forward, client facing. I wasn't on Zoom calls. I'm going there to write scripts and edit and research. And so those are the types of things that people are probably doing at cafes, or if they create their own course, or maybe they are working on client things, like they're a nutritionist and they're creating meal plans for people. Things like that you can do in a cafe. And it's more that than people who are working their corporate job doing project management at the Starbucks in the middle of downtown, right? That's sort of what I'm talking about. Anyway, on to the next one. You won't be able to constantly work on the road. So this was one that we also thought may be an issue, and we really had to figure out before we dove deeper into this plan, right? We were like, for this to work, we need to be able to actually do work. Otherwise, how do we make money if we can't work? Is that even going to be a possibility? And so there were a few main things that we realized needed to be done, right? We needed to make sure we had reliable Wi-Fi, and we also needed to have enough space in where we're living to have our own spaces to get work done. Like sometimes a super mini efficiency hotel room where you have one full-size bed and then 6 inches of space on each side, and then like a bathroom door that hits the bed when you open, isn't enough for people to work every day. So we're taking that into consideration as we're booking these accommodations. But we realize that most places have Wi-Fi, or you can very easily filter out the places that don't, whether it's a hotel, whether it is an Airbnb, or some people are doing house sitting, and you can check with them to see if they have Wi-Fi. So you do have options, and especially even airplanes have Wi-Fi and trains have Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi is one of the biggest things that you need, right? If you're working remotely from your computer and you don't have Wi-Fi, then you're not working remotely from your computer. I hate to break it to you. So if you have a job that you're able to do remotely, most places are able to accommodate that. Then the other one is if you have a job that is based off of like Zooms and phone, finding a place that's quiet enough. And maybe this is a tip, or maybe I'm behind in learning this, but AirPods, I know I have AirPod Pros, but I don't remember which ones. Their noise cancellation, especially through the Ring Central app, is superb. I am typically outside if I can, right? If I'm at a cafe and I can work outside, I do. So there's always the birds chirping as if I'm Snow White. I don't know why the birds are so incredibly loud everywhere, but it's a thing that I'm aware of. But I haven't, and either the people I'm talking to on the phone are just being nice and not saying anything, or they don't hear it. But I haven't had anyone say, are you sitting in a wooded glen? Because that's what it sounds like to me. So if you do need to have, or if you do have a job or any situation where you need to answer the phone, check out the AirPod Pros. I will also take suggestions and comments for other headphones if you want to drop those, because I am willing to try out pretty much anything. That's just what I had, and I tried it and it worked. But being able to have Wi-Fi, that is path one. And then if you need to do Zooms or phone calls, finding a place that's quiet, and or finding some kind of background, because realistically, you're just not going to want to be in your room, in your accommodation every single day working, especially if you work 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and you're in a hotel versus your home or apartment that you've picked out and decorated. You're going to want to like break that stuff up. And so you are able to work consistently on the road. It's just not going to look like it would at home, but that's okay. So the next, I believe, two assumptions are more about when you're traveling with your significant other. And I've heard so many times people be like, you and Christian are going to get tired of each other. How are you going to be in the same hotel room, just not even 2 bedrooms, just 1 bedroom? How are you going to pull it off? And I feel like people fail to remember that we met during COVID. Okay, we met when the only thing we could do was be inside. We met in a time where people were playing Jackbox on Zoom. I played checkers on Zoom. Do you know how comfortable with people you have to be to play checkers on Zoom? Or I think I also did Mario Kart on Zoom, right? So we met in a time where we couldn't go out and do things for many, many months. We were stuck in the house. I've never seen so many comedy specials in my life. And y'all were there, right? Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. So when you meet someone and all you do is stay inside, you get used to it pretty fast. You find your coping mechanisms. You know exactly how much you can take. And when it's over and you're like, I need space, I need, separate break. And so for me, as long as I've got my Kindle, I'm in a whole new world. But outside of that, we also know that on our journeys while we're traveling, we don't have to do every single thing together. We may be in the same city, and we do this now when we're traveling, because I like lollygagging and dilly-dallying. I like to be out and about. And every single day, he does not want to be out and about like I do. So there'll be days where he's like, I'm going to chill in here. I'm going to relax in the room. I'm going to have a calm day here. And I'll be out, I don't know, looking for a horse to ride or something insane that he's like, what'd you do today? So we don't have to do the same thing every single day. And that alone is like 5 or 6 hours of separation. Then I don't know, if you get more tired of each other, take a nap. I'm just kidding. But maybe if you need to be asleep, that could be a solution. So I think we got a nice base by being together so much throughout our entire relationship that this is just going to be more of that, but we get to do more of it in the whole world and not just in our whole city. So that'll be very nice. And the next one is you're going to regret not having a home base. And I think this comment came from people that didn't necessarily know how we were doing it specifically. So for anyone new here, we are not selling our home. I know a lot of digital nomads will either give up their apartment or sell their home and they will travel that way, but we are not selling our home. Although we don't plan on coming back a bunch in the initial stages of our digital nomading, we do plan on being gone, but we always know that this is here. The option is here, and we haven't pigeonholed ourselves into, we have to make this work because we have nowhere to live. If we go back to America, we're homeless. Okay, that was not a situation I wanted to be in. And I think that makes it even more freeing and even more of a, we don't need to go back because we feel like that option's always there. There's no rush for us to take it. So that is my perspective. Now, my reaction to people that don't have a home base is depending on their situation when they left and their financial situation is you can always get one. Furnished apartments are not hard to come by. They may cost more money, but if you needed a place to stay, you can get an Airbnb for a month that costs similar to what you would pay in rent, right? You can get an Airbnb for a few weeks. There's always a friend or family that's looking for a roommate. Y'all don't have friends that are looking for roommates? So I feel like you'll regret not having a home base is when you're coming from a mentality that's not full of flexibility. If you are full of flexibility and you can do literally whatever, then this really isn't an extra large concern for you, if that makes sense. So it's not necessarily regret not having a home base. Now, maybe if you had a bunch of sentimental items and you got rid of them, you may regret that if you are holding attachment to the sentimental items. But besides that, it's hard to regret not having a home base when you're in a new country every 30 days. And when I'm watching the video of people that are doing that, I'm like, yeah, I can see why. I can see why you are living this life because they look like they're having an absolute blast. I think that was the last one. I'm not sure. And that was the last one. That was all of the assumptions. So thank y'all so much for watching these assumptions with me. I would love to know what you guys think about digital nomad life and long-term traveling. If you are watching this on the restream and you have some assumptions that you want me to react to, please put them in the comments. I will still be reading and replying to those. But yeah, let me know if you are planning a digital nomad adventure and you are about to, I guess, leave the nest or whatever you want to call the place that you live. That is so exciting. And I am always looking for more tips and more tricks and more adventure on just the whole prep process. Because of course I am doing this A, live with you guys right now, but B, I'm recording our process as we go through and kind of sharing it with you guys as we learn and as we're figuring this stuff out. So there is, of course, things that we don't know, things that we need to learn. And that's what I love about YouTube community and just the travel community is that everyone is so willing to share. And it is so much easier to gain information this way than it would be in the time before the internet. I have no idea how people were doing it back then because I was just a baby. But I'm very open to hearing what everyone has to say. So I also have one more question. If you could work anywhere for a month, where would it be? Please put that down below and I will read those as well. But thank y'all so much for watching this video. If you liked this video and you think that other people will get some either inspiration or tips or advice from it, please give it a thumbs up. Also, please hit that subscribe button so that you will be notified every time I upload and ring the bell icon because hitting the subscribe button is one thing, but you don't want it to go straight to your phone when a new video goes live because I know you do. But yeah, thank you again so much. And is it Sana? Thank you on the congrats. And same with Amanda Green. Thank you so much for watching. It was a pleasure being here with y'all. Okay, I will see you guys next time. Bye.